Welcome to Health Matters with Dr. Nelson Bulmash, sponsored by the UI Radio Network at uiradionetwork.org. Catch us on Facebook and Instagram at United Intentions and Twitter at Higher Intention. Look for us on 99.1 FM, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Stitcher, Blog Talk Radio, and many more. Over the next hour, we'll introduce you to some fascinating people and engaging discussions that may provide you with answers to assist in revolutionizing your own personal health. And now, here's Dr. Nelson.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Nelson Bulmash, the host of Health Matters on the UI Media Network. If you're new to my show, I'm a chiropractor, naturopath, and nutritionist. And my intention here with you today and all days that I do my show is to bring you the very, very best of health, inspiration, and spirituality. And today will be no exception. I have my friend and guest, Holli Emory. I always want to call her Dr. Holli Emory because she's so good at what she does. And I'm sure she will be exemplary today as well. So over the last probably several shows, you've heard me talk a lot about how stressed people are. We're going to not just talk about how stressed you are today. We're going to be able to talk to you in a way that we begin to move you from being emotionally bankrupt or emotionally stuck to emotionally free. And that's very, very important because we're going through a critical time in American history. Maybe one might even say world history, where we're so up in arms about so many things. There's so much angst, there's so much confusion, there's so much depression, there's so much anguish. And the thing about that is it doesn't really get us anywhere unless you can channel it, unless you can move it in a way that helps to inspire you, to empower you, to impassion you, to be a greater version of who you are. And what we're going to do today with my guest, Holli Emory, is we're going to talk about what you can do to move from being stuck, where you have a perspective of what you think might be reality, that is just a perspective. It isn't reality unless you choose to create it as such. So for all my friends here in Atlanta, watching me on WGJY, FM 99.1, and those watching me, my friends, fans, and followers in Kentucky and Ohio who are checking in on WTTA 101.2 FM, it is a pleasure. Welcome. So good to be here, Holli, on our Thanksgiving week. Are you prepared for Thanksgiving?
I am. It's going to be probably a little bit quiet, but enjoyable nonetheless. We're going to just kind of roll with what the day brings. So. Yeah, it's going to be really exciting.
It's a good attitude.
Yeah.
It is, Holli, it's remarkable how many people I've spoken to where I've said, hey, what are you doing for Thanksgiving? And people look at me blanketly and they say, I'm not doing anything. We can't see people. We can't have people over. And I understand that, Holli. Although, here's the thing, folks. You always are responsible for what you create. And I got news for you. I've had major holidays, like when I moved here to Atlanta many years ago, where I was my own party. And don't forget the power and the conviction of saying, hey, my life is great, and I'm going to affirm it by having my own little party, even if it's a party of one or two. All right, let me introduce my guest. She's a dear friend and an amazing person. Both she's a leading coach, and Holli Emory is not only a leading edge emotional awareness and educator, but she also is involved in helping people with what I call personal evolution. So Holli's certifications in the law of attraction and PTSD help her clients to clear harmful emotional traumas and begin developing an expanded cognitive and emotional awareness so they may have a more emotionally abundant life. Holli's core focus is on educating her clients through the utilization of a simple law of attraction, processes, and mindfulness techniques to empower her clients to evolve emotionally. She's also a mom of two amazing children. I can confirm that. And she loves being out in nature and is passionate about serving her community. In her spare time, Holli is a huge children's advocate and provides mentorship to adolescents and teens in the foster care system through court-appointed special advocate program. All right, Holli, thank you so much for joining me here today. It's so good to have somebody in the studio.
Thank you. Thank you for the lovely introduction. And I'm really excited to be here and talk about, how we can go about building emotional abundance in our daily lives.
Right.
Like you spoke, it doesn't, you mentioned, it doesn't matter whether we are a party of one or a party of 10. And I think what you touched on is very important because people, when they get out of their daily habits and their patterns, we're creatures of habit. We don't know what to do.
Right.
Right. But the other important piece that you touched on, which I'm really excited about, is the fact that we are all creators. we are creative beings at our core.
Yes.
So you might have a routine if you went to like Aunt Margaret's house in like Ohio every year, or Uncle Jed's house in Texas, or they came to you and you have a house full of people. But every day is an opportunity to create something new traditions,
Right.
new experiences. And you can make it whatever you want. You can make it as small and intimate, or you can make it as grand, just because. And that's the thing. We're not only are we creative, we're dynamic beings. So we have the ability to shift and to create something. Hold on, get adjust my mic.
Sorry about that. They weren't hearing you.
Something fun and something new every day. I mean, like I said, we're creatures of habit. So when we are thrust in a situation like we've been in for the last several months, we kind of get like in this space where we're like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? Because we're so used to someone telling us where to go, what to do, what to say, how to act.
Yeah.
It's like when we have this opportunity to create something new, we get a little flustered. We might get a little bit overwhelmed because maybe so-and-so always took the lead for something.
Right.
But it's an opportunity. It's the most important thing. It's always an opportunity to create something beautiful and exciting. And I love that. I love that about life. I love that we can, we're creators and we're artistic beings at our core.
Right.
So, you can run with it. You can...
Yeah, it's a time where you can redefine your life, your perspective. So many people think that because you can't do what we traditionally do, that it means you can't have fun. You can't still have a great time. You can't, and by the way, there are also people who have said to me, Nelson, you know what we're going to do? I'm going to be by myself, but I'm going to be zooming in to friends and family members all across the country. I like your creativity. I like that because there's no reason, unless you're sick, unless you're somebody who's in the hospital isolated because you have COVID or some other emergency that you can't participate. Look, take ownership of this. Never give up your sense of gratitude, because gratitude is essential to improving the very quality and nature of your life. Without gratitude, you have nothing. Holli, let's jump into this. Let me ask you some questions here.
Well, really quickly, because I want to follow up on that. How about this? Even if you are alone and say you're not Zooming, what about, if you are alone and you're not Zooming, that's an opportunity to exercise self-love, to do something for yourself, to take that time to go within and to get some inner clarity. Maybe read a really good, inspiring book, or watch a movie, listen to podcasts. There's so much that we have access to today. You can really take that moment to kind of, I know we've been locked down, quote unquote, and we've been feeling disconnected, but there's never been a better time to really go within and get truly connected with our inner being. And to really get that clarity, because we don't have those distractions that we used to have.
Sure.
Like we don't have like that mile a minute. Yes, things are coming at us all the time, but it's so important that we slow down and we focus on ourselves and we start to develop that inner deep relationship with who we are as beings. That is so valuable.
Right. Right. Very good.
Self-care.
Holli, let's jump into this. And I want to start right here. Most of us have emotional baggage. I think it's hard to go through life and not have a little bit of emotional baggage. At one time we're bullied, at another time maybe we bully, maybe we get in a car accident or something happens that traumatizes us, and we never seem to have a process that really gets us through it. So why is it so important to get through emotional trauma and emotional injuries?
Okay, so the emotional traumas that we experience through life, and they can start from as early as childhood, from birth to whenever, and it's so important because those traumas start to compound. The interest on those traumas start to compound year after year. So if we don't deal with the emotional pain, whether it's somebody that bullied us, we've all had somebody that we just didn't mesh with. They didn't like us. We felt like they didn't like us for whatever reason. We took it personally. And, it made it more difficult for us to do a job or to be in a relationship or whatever the case may be. Maybe it's a family member who's coming at you over and over again. They chose you. They targeted you. That person likely is in pain. Yeah. And has some sort of trauma of their own that they have not processed. So now, because we're all energetic beings energy has to flow somewhere. It's either going to flow in a negative way or a positive way.
Sure.
So if it's flowing from you, energy can't be contained. Right?
Yes.
So we are energetic beings. We have all this energy flowing through us. So think of it like you mentioned like a car accident. Traumas that are emotional are similar in a sense that, like, if somebody says something harmful to you that is hurting your feelings and your ego comes in, it's like getting into an accident. Or if they're saying that you're ugly or you're fat or this or that, you start to absorb that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have the tools to release that energy compounds. And then the next time you have like you have a situation like that where someone hurts your feelings, that interest is now growing.
Right.
So then you're getting depressed, you're getting anxiety, you're getting angry, and you're just taking this energy on in a very unhealthy way. And then eventually you start to maybe project that onto people that you actually love and care about. Right.
So it's interesting. So you get injured, and I don't know, in many cases, maybe people think they do, maybe they don't think that they're recovered from the trauma, but they continue because that's what you do in life. You find a way to continue moving forward. But if it's unresolved, then I'm getting from what you're saying that your future really isn't a future. It's a projection of your past into the future. Right,
exactly. So you're carrying that with you over and over again.
So you're going broken, in other words, or in a state of disrepair, forward thinking you're moving into a healthy future, a safe future, a future where you can create freely, but you're really not, because it sounds like you're being controlled by the issues of the past that are unresolved.
Right. And the human brain just it's not equipped. It hasn't evolved as fast as our technology has evolved. Our technology has evolved faster than our brains. So when we have something that comes at us, we need to slow it down a little bit, or we can speed it up so we can actually process what happened so that we don't hold on to it. But we all have those we can all recall a memory where we were we can describe it to a T, where we were at this place at that time, the people, you can do the temperature, like we hold on to things.
Yeah. Oh, yes, we do.
We hold on to things.
Some more than others.
I'm wearing this dress and so-and-so said this to me.
Yeah.
And it could have happened 25 years ago. And you were holding on to this emotional wound. An emotional wound is no different than a physical wound.
Yes,
the physical wound actually is easier to heal from and get past than an emotional wound. Because those emotional wounds, again, they stay. If you don't deal with them, if you don't have the right tools to heal them properly, then it starts to compound in that. And then another wound builds, and it's a layering effect.
Exactly.
And then you get angry, and you have all sorts of issues going on.
Got it.
You doubt, you get insecure.
Sure,
right? Yeah, So,
Holli, what we're going to do, we're going to take a break. I'm Dr. Nelson Bulmash. You're listening to another episode of Health Matters on the UI Media Network. When we get back, I'm going to ask Holli what happened to her that she became so incredibly empowered and inspired to help other people with her message of going from emotional bankruptcy to emotional wealth. We'll be right back. Holli,
This is Kurt Arsenault of Arsenault Advisory Group. Most of us never think we'll get divorced. Unfortunately, half of marriages will end in divorce. Children are always the first priority, but getting your finances in order will need to be addressed. The first step is to get an assessment of where you are financially. Will you keep your home? Do one or both of you have a 401k or pension? Who will pay for the kids' college education? Will you split your debt liabilities? These are just a few things to consider when thinking about divorce. Visit arsenaultadvisory.com and download our free ebook titled 6 Things to Do Before You Get Divorced. Don't wait. Visit arsenaultadvisory.com today.
All right. I'm back. I'm Dr. Nelson Bulmash. You're joining me for another edition of Health Matters on the UI Media Network during Thanksgiving Day week. And I'm so happy to be here with all of you. I'm talking to my friend and colleague, Holli Emory, and we're talking about going from a place of emotional bankruptcy to emotional wealth. And I wanted to have this discussion with Holli this particular week because I just don't ever remember a time in my life where I ran into so many people who were so stressed out and were just stuck. They couldn't get past the fear of COVID. They couldn't get past the results of or aren't getting past the results of the election, or they're afraid that another fire or another storm may break out here in the West or the Southeast. So Holli and I are talking about ways that she teaches people to help go from a place of emotional upset, even emotional poverty, to emotional freedom and wealth. All right, Holli, I have to ask you, you have quite an interesting background, and I don't know how much you want to go into it. I know it's pretty personal, but you're so empowered and you're so inspired about helping people. What drives your passion, your inspiration?
Well, I mean, even from a little girl, I always felt drawn to help others around me, because I think we all need help. As much as we are individuals, we are all connected on some level. So we all need help. No one gets to the top of the mountain on their own, per se, or you could, but it's a harder journey. Right?
Oh, I love that, because it really does take a village. Yeah.
So, I have had times in my life that were very challenging. I didn't feel like I had the support that I needed. It really starts to affect you. It starts to doubt, being a single mom of two amazing kids, you have challenges, but you want to be able to still feel supported and to be able to, achieve your dreams and things like that.
Right.
So it was through my own journey of figuring out what my next steps were, where I connected with some mentors, some very amazing people who lifted me up in my time of need, unsure times and things like that. Sure. And guided me along the way. So it was a process of steps of getting from, here I am now, but always remaining focused on moving forward. But I also, even more important than that, you talked about some of the things I've been through. I reached a point in my life where I felt, I don't know, it was overwhelmed, but I felt like everything was really chaotic. Yeah. Like I was having these relationships that didn't really bring value to my life. They were taking value from my life, if anything. You know what I mean? Like I didn't feel empowered. I was feeling disempowered. Right? I didn't want to feel disempowered. But more importantly, I had to look at the relationships that I was having with those individuals, but I also had to look at the relationship with myself and what was going on with me. Excellent. And what I could do. Right. It wasn't so much about the other people. I mean, they definitely had a role, but we all play a role in each other's lives. Right. Sure. And a lot of times those roles that we fill, we don't even know that we're filling. We've been assigned a role by, like I said, Aunt Martha in Ohio or whatever, or Uncle Jed in Texas or whatever. And we're filling these roles subconsciously. We have a lot of subconscious programming that we picked up in our childhood that we're not aware of, and we're just acting out, and we're not really focused on having like a quality of life, a richness to life. And we have this one experience. So why not make the most of it? Like it just excites me to talk about it, because I get so I'm so grateful for where I am and for my journey, even the things that were not the best experiences. There's so much richness to pull from that. There's so much value. And that's how I began building wealth through that.
And I love that because, and you don't have to say this if it's too personal for you, but I know you had some really nasty things, horrible things that happened to you personally. And probably most of us do, right? Yeah. And it's that elephant in the room, like, I don't want to talk about that. And we don't have to talk about what those things were, Holli, but serve it to say that you had things that were so painful that you were left in a place of immobility emotionally, where you felt stuck and you felt like you couldn't move forward, whether it be to be the confident woman that you are today, to do the things that you really feel now inspired to do, to make the contribution that you have. And yet here you are after, working with your mentors and doing all the studying you have and applying yourself and being very committed to move forward. And now you're taking time to help people who were stuck, much like you were, and move forward. What kind of things do you find when you meet people that they get stuck in? Where do people get mired down often in life? What's that look like?
It's a lot of that programming that I talked about that we pick up in our childhood that we're not aware of. It's the the self-doubt, the low confidence and things like that we can't do things on our own. And I think it's very important that just because you may be, like the question I ask people to ask is, who are you relying on and for what?
Right.
Right?
Right. Good point.
Okay. For me, I was relying on people to support me in an area, and they had zero interest in supporting me in that area.
So you were relying on the wrong people who were not committed authentically to serve your well-being.
Right, exactly. My success. And that's one of the things. It's who you surround yourself with. And they may be well-intentioned. Some of them may not be so well-intentioned.
Well, what does that look like, Holli? So how do you identify? Because this is a very good point. How do you, particularly when you're a younger person, or if you're in a situation, sometimes people sabotage you if you're at work. I've had lots of friends say, I can't believe this. I thought I knew this person well at work, and they sabotaged me in the meeting. How do you recognize when people aren't there for your best well-being?
Right. Well, the people that are going to be there for your well-being are the people that are not living in what I call a lack mindset.
Right. Okay.
They are good with themselves. They have a certain level of security with who they are.
Sure.
And they see the value in you. Not everybody's going to see the value in you and what you have to offer, what you have to bring, because they're so caught up in their own story. That's one of the big things as well. People are caught up with these narratives that they create in their own lives that hold them back ultimately. Like, I'm not supported. And even though I may have felt supported or unsupported in those moments, I had to support me first, right? I had to do that in order to do that, I had to seek the people who I aligned with that saw my value. Right?
And how do you do that? Like, what are some of the characteristics you look for to know that somebody is truly, authentically not playing you, not setting you up, but is there to really recognize the quality of who you are, so that you can count on them, you can trust them to help support you so you move forward effectively?
Well, those are the people that are going to give you their time, because they're going to see the worth in you. They're going to give you their time, and they are going to listen to you. Right. There's a lot of people that will help you, but they're helping you for the wrong reasons. Yes.
Got it.
That is a big, huge pothole.
Yes.
That I went in very, very deep.
Yeah, sure.
They were helping me for the wrong reasons. And it's just, you want to talk about some compounded emotional interest, like the guilt and the shame and the blame that came from that. And that kept me in that hole a little bit longer than I wanted to be. I had to okay, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
Like, I relied on this person. I thought that they actually were authentically interested in my growth and, saw that, but they didn't, and that's okay. That's fine.
Right.
It stung a lot, but I got past it because I started to, you have to be dynamic. You have to be able to shift and look and learn. And the biggest thing you can do is be an observer in your life. That is one of the biggest things that you can do. You need to observe your relationships. You need to be able to tell who is really showing up for you, but you also need to show up for you first and foremost before other people will show up for you.
It's interesting. So you have to be careful you're not stepping in a sinkhole rather than a pothole. So, I mean, sometimes we step in, we step in potholes, but once again, not that we fall into a sinkhole.
Right.
So I love this idea that you are constantly observing yourself in the process of being. And in doing so, you get to see the interaction in a way that you don't if you're not consciously aware of you observing the process of life that you're engaging in.
Right. Exactly. And I was not consciously aware because I was operating in a space of the programs that I had been, that had been imprinted on me as a child.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
I literally had an awakening. It was a spiritual awakening. First, I had a spiritual death, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is really horrible."
Right.
But not horrible to the sense like, I had self-pity, and I was like, "Woe is me." Mm-hmm. It was kind of like a shock to like who I was, and it was like, "Okay, well, what do you need to do next?" It's now that you have this awareness. Right? And I have woken up to this new knowledge. Which I am a huge knowledge junkie.
Right.
I am forever learning, and you are going to learn. Like the old paradigms support, growing up in your family, getting a job, working until a certain age, collecting retirement,
right?
And then you pretty much die. That doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun to me.
Doesn't sound like the kind of life I'm looking to have. Right.
Like there's so much to learn. There's so much beyond that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you're in this wheel of this machine that was built that no longer serves all of our humanity. We're in this globally connected state thanks to the internet. You know, that's another thing. You have to be able to filter your connections on social media.
Yes.
And like, I hear people
Goodness, how true
all
is that?
the time, all the time saying how they hate social media, blah, 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 blah. This. I'm like, I happen to love it because
I love it too.
I have a great experience,
Me
but
too.
I chose that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I
Good
chose,
point.
Yeah, you have to filter things
Right.
in your life. You have to audit.
Tell them again that, because I'm kind of worn out on how bad social media is. What you said, Holly, is so important. You've got to filter. You've got to look at who you're allowing into your world, your inner circle.
Yeah.
And if you have people who are coming into your inner circle, when I have people, I make it real clear to the people in my inner circle, look, I have a zero tolerance for malice. I have a zero tolerance for bullying. I have a zero tolerance for nastiness. And if somebody goes on my page and they're blocked immediately.
Yeah,
No
exactly.
explanation needed. You're blocked.
Yeah, I don't even give them the time of day.
No, me either.
just-
I don't even give them the courtesy of an explanation anymore. It's like, you know who you are, you know what you're doing is not acceptable, and you're done. Block.
Do we have time for me to share a story?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so
Yeah, we got
a couple
2.5
years,
minutes, so
okay,
go right ahead.
I love this story. It's one of my favorite stories. A couple years ago, I was reselling a Barbie, like one of those Power Wheel Jeeps, for my son, and it
I
was
love 'em.
in mint condition.
Okay.
Right. They're very rare to come across
Yes,
in
they
mint
are.
condition. I set a price that I wanted. And I put it on there, and like everything worked. It had a radio, Wi-Fi, all this really cool stuff, right?
On this Jeep?
Yeah, on the Jeep. It was really, really cool. He had
Think
so
about me
much
the
fun.
next time. All
I
right,
know, right?
all right.
You might be a little big for
Okay.
it. So I put it on the local page, and some lady comes at me, and she's like, "You're never," I mean, literally, like garage kept, brand new condition, right? We were just done with it. She comes at me, and "You're never going to get that, and I could go to Goodwill, and you could do this and all." And she really like had it in for me. And I said, "You know what?" And I responded to her in a very calm way, and I said, "I don't think you're really in the market for a Jeep." I said, because if you were, this is not the Jeep that you're looking for, because it's clearly out of your price point.
Right. Got
Right.
it?
This lady did not know what to do. And I called her out on her garbage,
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
You know, so you're just, you're looking for someone to pick a fight with. I'm not that person. But if you are looking for a Jeep, you can go to Goodwill anytime you want, and you can find a Goodwill, or you could find a Jeep in not mint condition.
Right.
She wound up apologizing to me.
Good for you.
Not only did I find the perfect buyer, I got $5 over my asking price.
There you have it.
So it was great. I was just like, so I don't have a tolerance for that either. I have zero tolerance for people who are coming. Like, she had issues. She wound up apologizing. She's like, "You're right, I'm not. I'm basically being a bully." And it wound up being a really great experience. And, I didn't really take it personally. I'm just
Right.
like, okay, let's see this situation for what it actually is.
Nice.
Right. This
Very
is
nice.
not the Jeep for you.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Holly, we're going to take another break.
Awesome.
Folks, Dr. Nelson Bulmash here. You're listening to another edition of Health Matters. My guest is Holli Emory. We're talking about how to go from a place of emotional bankruptcy to a place of emotional freedom. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
This is Kurt Arsenault of Arsenault Advisory Group. Do you make a six-figure income but live paycheck to paycheck? You're not alone. Many six-figure income households will buy too much home and too much car, creating tremendous financial stress that builds debt when you should be building wealth. If you make six figures and live paycheck to paycheck, visit arsenaultadvisory.com and download our free ebook titled, "I Make Six Figures and Live Paycheck to Paycheck." You have nothing to lose and potentially everything to gain. Visit arsenaultadvisory.com today.
Hi, everybody. Once again, Dr. Nelson Bulmash. I'm back after the commercial break. My guest is Holli Emory, and we're talking about how to go from a place of emotional deprivation or bankruptcy to a place of emotional empowerment and freedom. Holli, I want to get into your programs because I'm very excited about this. You actually have some programs coming up that sound really, really neat. Talk about those a little bit, and then we'll go into what it looks like to work with somebody in your program.
Right, that's right. I have a 3-part immersive emotional wealth building program that I'm about to launch, and I'm super, super excited about it because it teaches people to step into first find their value within. Sure. Right, and then build upon it. I'll talk about a little bit how we do the emotional auditing that I spoke about earlier, that we talked about. Like, you really have to hone in on who you have in your life. And that takes some time because it's, I understand it can be scary. Sure. But you got to find out what's running you, right? Yeah, exactly. And I have a quick question. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting. Is emotional auditing not only who you have in your life, but what rackets you might be running, what programs you might be running in your life? Right, exactly. Okay. So we go through, we identify those programs, we establish how you can clear them out and start to, implement new programming that are going to support you building emotional wealth. It's so exciting because once you do, there's a sense of freedom. It's emotional wealth. Yeah, like you're putting down suitcases of junk. Yeah. I don't have to carry this around with me anymore. And as I mentioned, what's so important here, Holli, is that if you don't ever do anything to recognize any kind of auditing, anything to observe yourself so that you start to pay attention to the conversations you're having, the way you express in the world, then you're participating without the observation. That's such a key tool to be able to step back and say, I'm going to observe myself, how I occur in life, the conversations I'm having, what kind of feedback I'm getting, how I'm acting, how I'm interacting with people. And without that auditing process, you're going in probably blind, because I don't know that most of us have access to being able to see the filters we have in place, because I'm guessing they become invisible. Right. Well, yeah, you're on like an autopilot, essentially. Yeah, right. So you are basically allowing other people to take out of your emotional bank, and you don't even know it. And you're going further and further into emotional debt. Ooh. To the point where you become on the verge of bankruptcy. Because like I felt like my life was in such a chaotic state, and I didn't really have a lot of control over everything or anything or whatever. And I was having these relationships that were not the quality that I wanted to have in my life. So that's a way that it would be seen, is that maybe you're in your case, maybe you're looking for a man and he didn't treat you properly. Well, yeah, that's one of them. Yeah. And not only that, maybe not only did he not treat you, maybe he didn't see you like who is the real Holli Emory. Right. So he didn't bring out the quality of how magnificent you are, how capable you are. Right. And you want to surround yourself with people who are going to add value versus take away value. Yeah, right. And in that case, specifically, since you brought it up, this was a person who I felt wanted to control, and they did not see my value. They wanted a lot of control, but because of my own self-worth, I was able to move on from that. Yeah. And no, we'll have none of that here today. Yeah, no, we will not. We will absolutely I don't mean not. With me. No. I meant with him, in other words. No, we will. You're never going to get that from me. No, absolutely not. Right. But yeah, it's about seeing your value. Yeah. Once you see your value, then you will mirror that to the world, and you will start to bring in people who also see your value, and then your emotional worth and it starts to increase. And this is the buildup of emotional wealth that I talk about. Is learning how to build emotional wealth and to live in a state of abundance versus lack. That victim mentality, losing that victim mentality. Woe is me, my life sucks. Everything's constant going self-pity, wrong. Right. No one loves me. No, that's not true. That's not true. So we clear out a lot of that. Beautiful. Use some very powerful techniques and processes to help you start to live life on the abundance side. Well, that's so interesting because I remember, Holli, being in a place in life where it just seemed like I went from, excuse my language, but one sucky thing to another. Like I just couldn't escape being a victim. I mean, one
thing after another, after another, after another, and I felt trapped.
AKA 2020. That's how a lot of people feel. They feel like it's one thing after another. Yeah. What next?
But what's interesting, Holli, I want to share this with you. What's super interesting about 2020 to me is when I go through a period like 2020, what we're going through here, I always look at it from an observer's perspective like, okay, I'm going through a bit of a test here. Mm-hmm. However, this is not going to diminish me. I'm going to observe what's going on. I'm going to see what is actually going on and what the smartest move that I could make in any given moment to either circumvent the trauma or to go through whatever. Sometimes it's just traumatic. I mean, somebody dies of COVID or in a fire out west or in a tornado here in the Southeast. You're going to go through trauma. But handling it from a place of emotional abundance, you're going to be more rational. You're going to be more logical.
Yes.
And you're going to be able to step back and say, love this person. I'm sorry it happened. And it doesn't mean that I can't continue going on loving them and still having an amazing life. And I think, Holli, that's the thing that has separated so many people in 2020 is the people who are really successful always seem to have a mindset that allows them to go forth and be successful. Talk about that.
Right. It's a thriving mindset versus a survival mindset. And
Beautiful.
a lot of times these traumas send us into a state of survival mode or the parasympathetic sympathetic state. Yeah, exactly.
Fight or flight. Yep.
Fight or flight. Yeah. You know, we're like, oh my God, this happened. And, you know, at the end of the day, and you talk about like the rational piece, we have to look at like how much something is truly affecting us, right? And how it's going. It's not so much that it happened to you because we are these energetic beings experiencing life in this physical, space.
Yes.
Right? It's how we move forward from those experiences and not allow ourselves to get trapped in those experiences. You know, yes, we love our loved ones. You know,
of course.
And it's definitely an awful thing. And like you said, sometimes things just happen and it's like, okay, what next? But when you are living from a place of an emotional abundance, it's actually, it's not that you want more of it, but you know how to handle it. You know how to navigate through it to where it's minimally affecting. Because a lot of people, they take on these challenges, or they like I said, they start to compound, right? And then it starts to, not only does it compound, but it starts to affect everything you do. It affects your job. It affects your marriage. It affects your children.
Your relationships in general.
All of your relationships with friends and family. So it's that for me is no way to live. So I love teaching people how to be able to navigate that, live life from a state of emotional abundance. Where they can, it's, if you need time out, there's nothing wrong with that. If you need a little moment to kind of regroup and process some really horrible things.
Yeah, this has been a tough year with a whole lot to process.
That's okay.
Yeah, I thank you for saying that, Holli, because I don't know, with maybe the exception of the year my dad died 13 years ago, where I had to constantly like, okay, guys, I'm sorry, I'm going to step back a moment. I need a moment to myself. But this is that year where there's so many moments like that. It's like, Coach, time out. Send somebody in for me. I need to sit on the sideline and catch my breath for a second. But I love that you said that, because there's nothing wrong with stepping back, taking a break, catching your breath, and then coming back. Because this is that kind of year. I don't. Do you know anybody who's like flawlessly moving through that? Me either.
No, and you need to be able to reconcile your emotions.
Yeah.
You need to be able to put them in a, it's like a spreadsheet, if you will. Like if you are like overspending on your credit cards, and you're living outside of your financial means, you can also live outside of your emotional needs where you're constantly giving to people and you don't have anything to give. Yeah. And that's when you get into that state of emotional bankruptcy, because you're giving from an empty bank. And then the negative things start to happen, the negative self-talk, the self-doubt, the resentment. You start to resent.
Yeah, you start to ruminate on these things. You just go,
people.
Yes.
Listen, I have been through that.
Sure, we all have.
End.
Right, it's not fun.
It's not fun being on the receiving end of somebody's unhealed emotional wounds.
Right. And it's funny, Holli, I'm in a place in my life where I really minimize my time around people who haven't done their homework in this area because they're exhausting.
It is.
So if you're somebody who is in a state where it's pity me, it's I'm always a victim, different poop, different day, same poop, whatever the case may be, if you're kind of that person in this, then it's imperative that you get help. Otherwise, you're going to stay stuck like that for the rest of your life.
That's not a lot of fun.
No, I don't want you in my sandbox, not until you get healthy and happier. And it's funny because once you get to a place where you're more emotionally abundant, it's really difficult to even allow people that are constantly in that place of
well, those people don't even come around you anymore, to be honest with you.
Well,
when you do your homework,
you're right. Although Holly,
they try to, but you kind of start to repel them.
No, I understand, and I agree with you. Where I was going to go with this is every once in a while they peek up at family events like
that's what I was going to
Thanksgiving
talk about
or Christmas.
Yes.
Yeah, there they can peek up a little bit.
I'm so glad you said that and you circled back because a lot of people typically would be filled with dread of family functions. Like they'll go because it's family. But like if you're going to go and it's dread and anxiety, why not create something new and don't go to that?
Yeah.
Like,
what's that great movie? Home for the Holidays?
Yeah.
You remember that amazing movie?
like this is not
Watch that movie. That's what we're talking about. So if it's disastrous for you to go be with the family, then don't go for those big family events. Maybe go with just you and or your wife or girlfriend or boyfriend to visit with your parents, but not the rest of the family.
Or like Home Alone, where the little boy got left alone, but the one cousin was bullying him the whole time.
Right.
Or his big brother or something like that. Why would you go and put yourself in a situation where you're going to be bullied or you're going to be around people that you don't like?
Right. Yes. Just stop it, folks. Just stop it.
Not all family is nice and kind.
Right.
And, it's kind of a luck of a draw type thing, but, it's what you create in life.
Holly, it's very interesting. I love my family so much because, not to brag, but people have done their emotional homework. And when my family gets together, we have an amazing time.
That's awesome.
Like there's no snarkiness, there's no backstabbing, there's, you don't have anybody who's petulant, who's defiant, because I reared my kids to be aware of how they were showing up and to manage themselves in time and space. So if they're coming home, there's a time and a place to say, hey, Dad, let's talk about some things I'm struggling with versus let's destroy the Christmas party.
Right. And that is so important.
Yeah.
Because we live in a age and a society where there are these very dysfunctional cycles that get repeated over and over.
Holidays.
Yeah, they shift.
Yes.
They shift and they may look a little different, but they're not really cleared. It goes from generation to generation. So one of the things I love doing is being able to help families clear the emotional dysfunction. It's about creating a new legacy.
Oh, I like that. So
really
do you teach family? Okay, I got to ask you this.
I do.
So you have family courses?
Yes.
Oh, you got to talk about that.
Yeah.
You got to talk about that.
It's just more, I guess, in depth because it deals with the individual family members and helps them to be able to create value and see the value in each other because no two family member is alike, right? And, you always have the oddball or the black sheep.
Yep.
What's wrong with being the black sheep?
Well, there's nothing as long as you're not that person who brings such a level of defiance that everybody walks in eggshells around you.
Right, exactly.
Then there can be a problem.
This is true. But the point is to see that all beings have intrinsic value.
Right, I agree.
On some level.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And it may be the value that they bring is that you realize that you don't want to live your life that way. Right. There's always a gift to be had.
Yeah.
So they may be that curmudgeon-y person that you don't want to model that behavior, right?
Right.
So that's their value, and then you can work around it from there.
Let's talk about that more, Holly. We're going to take our last commercial break. Once again, I'm Dr. Nelson Bulmash. You're listening to another episode of Health Matters. We'll be right back.
If this content resonates with you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel at uimedianetwork.org to stay updated with our uncensored shows. Also, like and follow us at UI Media Network on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and almost all your favorite podcasting platforms. Most importantly, if you're being censored on social media, write to us at contact@uimedianetwork.org to get your message out. And remember, keep raising that frequency.
Hey, everybody, you looking for an opportunity to work for a conscious media network? UI Media Network is looking for like-minded interns to assist in getting the network's message out. Email us at contact@uimedianetwork.org to connect with us. Don't forget to tune in for the In the Burb show every other Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where hosts Amy Lyle and Gina Riles are sharing their experiences with you on a talk show featuring experts, funny guests, and a live studio audience. Their show is amazing. Check it out. All right. So, please come in, because that sounds amazing to me. Or is that too difficult to do?
It's more of an individual thing. You have to start with mom and dad, honestly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. You have to help them, because I like to look at marriages or unions like a science experiment in 7th grade, where you just don't know what you're going to get.
Yep.
Because each individual is bringing in their own trauma baggage, if you will.
Got it.
So it's getting to mom and dad, helping them work through their things that are holding them back from being the best parents that they can be, right?
Right.
And then having them use that to teach their children, really getting in and clearing out and helping families create, like I said, a new legacy. And build a better legacy so that we're eliminating eventually the dysfunction that travels over from generation to generation to generation.
Holly, that's so amazing. When I went to my daughter's wedding, I was the officiant. I got to, in other words, be the official that married my daughter and her husband, who are one of the most amazing couples I've ever known, by the way. They're so conscious and so beautiful in the way they interact. And I remember that we sat down after the wedding, and it was so fascinating to me because I didn't know what kind of feedback I was going to get after I performed the wedding ceremony, because it was pouring rain. And when I tell you it was raining so hard, I couldn't read the material that I was reading to marry them.
Wow.
And I actually had to say, excuse me 1 second. And I paused and I shook my glasses and I got the pages separate so I could turn the page. And of course the ink was bleeding. It was really an interesting moment in my life because I wanted to be perfect for my baby girl and her husband. And I just went on like nothing was wrong. And they were beautiful. They just stood there. So when I say functionally, I mean, meaning that there was no distress on my daughter's face, on my son's. They looked into each other's eyes. And as I looked at them looking at each other, there was such a profound commitment of, we're here to get married today. Nothing, no circumstance will damage this moment. And that night when we got back, my daughter had come back later with her husband because they were taking pictures long after we were done with the ceremony. And I looked at my daughter and I said, sweetheart. And she said, Dad, let me stop you. You were amazing and everything was perfect.
That's the word right there. That is so awesome because a lot of people would come unglued.
Oh, they come unglued.
Unraveled.
Beautiful woman. And yet if you look at the pictures on my Facebook of the wedding, you can see that she and her husband and everybody were just in a state of pure joy. And the point of this, Holly, is that I love that you start with parents because you have to begin with the pillars of the family, which are the mom and dad.
Yeah.
So that's brilliant of you, by the way. Let me just congratulate you. That's such a brilliant move. My wife and I and my former wife and her husband worked tirelessly to really work with the kids to have an amazing perspective. They're all very, very bright, and to work with them on being really amazing people. So the point of this, if people take courses like yours, they can begin to illuminate the dysfunctional filters or tendencies that they have that are they're sabotaging their lives from the inside out. And I think when you help people get through that, they have lives of freedom. Because I really, at this point in my life, particularly after having that experience where for 4 days I was with my family and not one person was argumentative, not one person created a single problem.
Right.
Everybody was there to be helpful. Everybody was there to contribute in an honorable way. And in doing so, if you ask me what was one of the most joyful occasions of my life, I go immediately to that place.
That's awesome.
So I'm so grateful that you were here, and I want you to talk more about your courses and what that looks like and how people can get in touch with you, because I get your passion. I get your commitment to make the world better by helping people as individuals and collectively as family members that are valuable in the core family and in the community. I know you're big on the community.
Yeah, I am. And I believe, it literally does. It takes a village. It takes a village not only to, raise children, but you have to be conscious of that village. Right? You have to be conscious of the village.
Who's giving input?
Right, exactly. Yeah. It takes a village to, have a healthy family as well.
Right.
To really clear out that dysfunction, because when we have thriving families, we have a thriving community.
Yes.
Very
good point.
We're in this really amazing place as human beings. We are on the leading edge of evolution as human beings. We are rethinking how we do things.
Right.
I don't know about you, but who wants to go to war anymore? We've got all this stuff in our society that is
how insane,
divisive to us as human beings, and we're fighting wars that don't even belong to us. We're fighting wars of people whose egos cannot be checked, right? Yeah. So, we've got two people that can't play in the sandbox together, and then we've got a bunch of other people who are coming and saying, I'm going to fight this, I feel bullied, they're being triggered. Yeah. Let's get rid of all of that. Let's create a new legacy. Let's create a healthy legacy, a healthy global society.
Love that.
It's doable.
It is completely doable. The thing is, we need to have people who are more empowered, more inspired to be leaders that bring people together in a common direction than to be divisive and separate us and then turn us on each other so that we can be manipulated for further gain by an authoritarian type figure.
And we need to get out of that fear mindset.
Yeah.
These people are literally tapping into your fears.
Right.
And you're buying into it, hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, right.
And you're getting all hopped up and angry and stuff like that. I wrote this post because I was like, it doesn't matter who wins. It's how we move forward.
Oh,
as a community.
Love that.
It's how we move forward, and we are there to support each other in this evolutionary process. And I think about people who feel like they want to be destructive. That's an inward thing. That's something that you need to work on for yourself. Right. And get right and get healed and things like that. Because like I said, you're going to fight somebody else's war or whatever, and that person is going to carry on with their lives while your life is completely obliterated. Right. And I'm going to go back to your daughter's wedding for a minute. And it was absolute perfection, because everything happened and unfolded exactly the way it was supposed to happen, right? Rain and all, right? And to be able to see the beauty and not feel like the day was ruined because of a little bit of rain is such a huge gift. And we have those gifts that come to us every single day. Even the things that I've been through, I would not be here to this day, sitting here with you, having this conversation, poised to help people, if I hadn't gone through those things, even those things that were deeply painful to me. And I had to do a lot of letting go and focusing on me, and healing me so I could help others, do the same thing, Yeah. So it was a gift. It was a gift. Every single thing that has happened to me, from the people who were literally throwing logs, digging potholes, ditches, speed bumps in front of me.
Yes.
I just had to get right with me and keep on my path. And I love my life now. It's amazing.
It's funny, Holly. That's what I tell people too. People say to me, Nelson, you sometimes seem ridiculously happy. It's not that I'm not unhappy at times, Holly. We all have problems. I had 5 family members die last year. And it's still incumbent upon me to take command of myself, manage my life, and choose to be happy or not be happy.
Yes, it's a choice.
And I remember something. I want to share this with many of you. My father was a severe diabetic, and he said to me when I was 15 years old, he said, "Son, I need to talk to you for a moment." I said, "Sure, Dad, what's going on?" And he said, "I'm a severe diabetic. I know you don't know what that means, but I want to tell you something, and it's very important that you begin to understand it now." He said, "It's unlikely that I will ever live the length of life and the quality of life that I want to live." And I said, "That's really sad, Dad." He said, "It is. It is. But I want you to know something. Knowing this, I want you to begin to prepare yourself because it is likely that I will die far before the time that I want to. And I want to continue being in your life, and I want you to make me a promise." I said, "What's that, Dad?" He said, "I want you to promise me that after I die, you grieve as you need to, but you reassume responsibility for your life, and you move forward, and you honor me. You honor me by having an extraordinary life." So I know there are a lot of you folks out there that are you're worn, you're torn. You've had two of my friends said their fathers died 2 weeks ago. Another person said that her ex-husband just died, and though they weren't married, they were still close. I can go on and on with this as many of you can. And the challenge is that you're always going to have obstacles, speed bumps, if you will, sinkholes, right? Potholes, depending on your perspective, that are very difficult for you to go through, to go around, to go under. And it's still your choice as to how you're going to continue through life. Holli here has been an amazing guest, and she has an incredible program that helps free people from the entanglements that confine them, that restrain them from feeling free of the chains that control them. And I suggest to you humbly, before I ask Holli for her final thoughts with the last minute or so left in the program, to really consider doing her program, or at least becoming aware that you may have something that has a stranglehold on you that you haven't processed that occurred to you early in life. And we all have them. Let's put the junk aside. We're all damaged goods in one way or another, and it doesn't mean that we can't heal and become whole. So Holli, we're nearing the very end of the show. I got about a minute and a half for you before I make my final closing remarks. What are your final thoughts about the program today?
Well, that was very beautiful of your dad and very loving and very, very powerful. And I see the love that he poured into you as a reflection in how you treat others. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and your family as well. That's a really beautiful thing. And, so first of all, you can reach me at Leading Edge Families on Facebook. That's my Facebook page. Or emotionalwealthbuilding.com is where you'll find the course, how to reach me, and so forth. But I mean, life is a funny, strange, wonderful thing.
Yes.
Right? It's all about choice at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And you get to choose to... you have to get yourself into a position where you are able to be empowered by those speed bumps, those potholes, those, whatever is throwing at you. There's always an opportunity to be empowered, to become a better person, to grow from it. Like I said, I'm a lifelong growth junkie, self-admitted. I love it. Everything, I'm happy all the time. I've gotten called miserable. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, I'm happier than I've ever been.
Right.
Like, really, like, this is somebody else's perspective. But to be able to release yourself from that entanglement of absorbing somebody else's perspective of who you are is truly, like, life's biggest gift.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Holli. I appreciate it very much.
It's been a blast.
Yeah, thank you. It's been awesome having you, Holli. You're amazing. Take our program. Get yourself whole. Get yourself fixed so that you can have the amazing life that is due you. And before I leave, I want to remind you that I'll be back in 2 weeks, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in December. So have an amazing Thanksgiving. And I will look forward to being with you in 2 weeks where I have the incredible Kelly Wright. She is awesome. We're going to have another amazing show. Until then, always be your best.
Thank you for joining us on this edition of Health Matters with Dr. Nelson Bulmash, where we help you discover how to ignite your mind, body, and spirit connection. Join us next time when we will bring you more exciting guests and engaging topics. Meanwhile, feed your mind, exercise your body, and nurture your spirit. The United Intentions Foundation and its associates take no responsibility for the opinions and statements made by the talk show hosts or their guests.